Welcome, viewers, to an in-depth exploration of the life and tragic events surrounding Jim Jones, the infamous cult leader behind the Jonestown Massacre. Born on May 13, 1931, in Crete, Indiana, Jones's early life was marked by financial struggles and a mother who believed he would become a great religious leader, a destiny she frequently reminded him of. From his childhood, characterized by odd behavior, a fascination with death, and a keen interest in religion, to his later years establishing the People's Temple and ultimately leading over 900 people to their deaths in Jonestown, Jim Jones's life is a chilling tale of manipulation, paranoia, and megalomania. As we delve into the timeline of Jones's life, from his early experiences working in a hospital to the establishment of his own church, and later the move to Jonestown in Guyana, we will uncover the layers of deceit, fear tactics, and mind control he employed to maintain control over his followers. Join us as we analyze the mental health and personality factors at play, considering traits of narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, paranoia, histrionic personality disorder, and even a potential messiah complex. Through this exploration, we aim to understand the psychological underpinnings of Jim Jones's actions and the devastating consequences they had on the lives of his followers. Jim Jones was born on May 13, 1931, in Crete, Indiana, U.S. His family had financial struggles. His mother claimed that she had visions when she was pregnant that indicated Jones would be a great religious leader. She would remind Jones of this remarkable destiny quite regularly. So, what could go wrong with that strategy? As a child, Jim Jones was described as odd, obsessed with death, and highly interested in religion. He killed several small animals and regularly held funerals for dead animals. He often shot friends with a BB gun, like an air gun that shoots pellets, and even fired a real gun at one of his friends. I don't know why they remained friends with him. Jim Jones was able to memorize long passages from Scripture. Jim Jones's father died in 1947. Jim Jones did not attend the funeral, and neither did his mother. Because of his father's death and the loss of financial support, Jim Jones had to take a job at a local hospital. People reported that he seemed to tolerate aspects of that job that other people did not, like handling corpses. In the early 1950s, Jones gained experience working with different church organizations and eventually started his own church. He promoted racial equality, but it wasn't clear if he genuinely believed that or if he saw an opportunity to gain power and influence. For example, many anecdotes he talked about, where he fought for racial equality, turned out to be false. As he progressed through his career as a religious leader, he became known as the mind-reading preacher. He paid attention to all the details that people talked about and brought them up later, as if he was able to read their thoughts. Jones grew in popularity because of his altruistic acts and his message of social justice. Members of his congregation noted that he reached out to minority communities and often cared for the elderly. Jones staged an assassination attempt, making it look like somebody tried to kill him. The police didn't believe it, but the members of his congregation did. He then came up with this conspiracy theory that the government was trying to destroy Indianapolis with a nuclear weapon. He moved to Brazil for a while, but that didn't work out. He came back to Indiana to find that his People's Temple, as he called it, was in disarray. In 1965, still using the conspiracy theory about Indianapolis exploding as motivation, he convinced 100 of his followers to come with him to California, eventually establishing churches in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and other cities. By 1973, his membership increased to almost 3,000 people. During this time, he was extremely popular with other religious leaders, politicians, and some celebrities. It's interesting that he could fool those groups so easily. He started to use fear tactics on his members to keep them loyal. For example, one of his female members died in a car accident. He told his congregation that he had asked her to meditate for a few minutes before she left in her car. She refused, and Jones said that's why she was killed. By this point, he was having multiple affairs. Jones would tell his wife that he needed to have sex with other women to retain his spiritual powers. This resulted in Jones fathering a number of children. Jones started to distinguish his spiritual beliefs from traditional beliefs that the members may have had coming into the congregation. He started to say that he was a deity that needed to be worshipped by the members. Interestingly, he told his wife that he was an atheist. So, if a deity is an atheist, does that mean they don't believe they exist? I'm not sure how that works. His drug use started to increase dramatically. causing his eyes to be red. He started wearing sunglasses all the time, explaining that the reason he wore them was that he was so holy that if somebody looked into his unshielded eyes, they would burst into flames. I bet his optometrist was scared of him. That's one appointment you don't want to see on your calendar if you're an optometrist. I imagine it's kind of like the fire-breathing dragon's dentist, right? So maybe they were in a support group together. Jones started to draw scrutiny from newspapers. There were allegations that he was mistreating members. And this brings us to the timeline of his crimes. By 1977, the attention of the media was too much for Jones to handle. He was afraid of losing power, so he moved his congregation to an agricultural settlement in the country of Guyana. He referred to the settlement as Jonestown. Construction had started on Jonestown several years before. Jones proclaimed the settlement was a sanctuary from the media and a socialist paradise. The Jonestown settlement would expand to over 900 people as Jones targeted vulnerable individuals, for example, those with substance use problems and histories of crime. Jones continued to perpetrate fraud, claiming to have the ability to heal people and predict the future. He staged these elaborate events, which really had a number of magic tricks that he would use. Even the members that helped him pull off these fraudulent exercises believed Jones was a deity. They thought he was saving his real supernatural powers for important tasks. So, this really borders on delusional itself, if not totally there. Jones held drinking the poison rehearsals. He would have liquid that the members would drink, and he would tell them that it might be poison, it might not be. He kept doing this to condition them, essentially to end their lives at some point. So, he wanted to see from these exercises who would be trouble, how they would react when confronted with the end of their lives. And this really facilitated what he would do later on. He used brutal methods to keep members in line, including drugging them and causing them sleep deprivation. He told them that he had infiltrated the community with secret agents who would come to them and say things like they wanted to escape or the living conditions were terrible. If the members did not report these communications or they agreed with them, they would be severely punished. So, he really kept everybody separate and somewhat paranoid of each other. Jones also didn't allow talking for a significant portion of each day when voice recordings were being played across the settlement. All these factors made it difficult for members to band together against Jones. Other members were kept in line by Jones's stories of how dangerous leaving the settlement would be. He told them the jungle was full of mercenaries and tigers. Makes me wonder when the tigers eat the mercenaries. I guess they were the tiger-proof variety of mercenaries. Jones also had a way of maintaining control over his inner circle. He forced them to prove their loyalty by signing blank power of attorney forms, false confessions that they had harmed children, and statements saying they had conspired to overthrow the government of the United States. He would hand them a firearm so their fingerprints would be on it, and they would take it back. And he would say he was going to frame them for murder using that weapon. Evidently, the conditions at Jonestown were horrible. It was hot, there were snakes and mosquitoes, and they could not grow much food because of the nature of the soil in the jungle. Many had expressed an interest in leaving, but again, they were afraid of Jones. There were many who stayed voluntarily. Some believed that being in Jonestown gave them a sense of purpose, expanded their understanding of reality, and alleviated feelings of isolation. A dispute over a child who was in Jonestown, named John Victor Stone, as well as complaints of several relatives of Jonestown members, started to attract the attention of California Congressman Leo Ryan. By the summer of 1978, there were also complaints of substandard living conditions and violations of human rights. Leo Ryan, reporters, and several relatives of those in the congregation traveled to Guyana in November 1978. On November 17th, they entered Jonestown, and the group noticed there was a lot of tension there. But overall, that evening, the group did form a positive impression of Jonestown. Evidently, Jones had coached the members of the congregation and told them to say positive things and told them how to defuse popular accusations he thought would be occurring, because those accusations, of course, were true. Eventually, though, some of the members communicated to that group that they wanted to leave Jonestown. One member specifically used a note. He handed a note to one of the reporters. So this really indicates the level of fear that some of the members had. The group noticed that Jim Jones appeared paranoid, weak, and disorganized. Evidently, he would go on these tangential rants talking about how the United States government was out to get him. The next day, November 18th, one of the members attacked Leo Ryan with a knife, which understandably eroded the positive impression formed the night before. After this, Ryan's group and 14 defectors drove to the airfield, intending to start their journey home. They also had with them a man named Larry Layton, who was posing as a defector. As the group was boarding 2 airplanes, a group of armed men from Jonestown arrived on a trailer being pulled by a tractor. They opened fire on the group, killing Ryan, 3 members of the media, and 1 defector. At the same time, Larry Layton, who was already in an aircraft with some of the group members, opened fire with a pistol. Larry Layton would eventually go to prison for that attack. He was the only member of this crime that actually served time in prison. He would be released in 2002. After the attack, Jones told his members they had no choice but to end their lives. So Jones made sure that his soldiers killed Leo Ryan. He did this not to protect the secrets that Ryan would have revealed, but rather to create a narrative whereby the members believed that the U.S. government would be sending troops to wipe out Jonestown. So he was essentially fulfilling the conspiracy theory that he had been pushing for such a long time. Jones told the members that it wasn't worth living like this, and he said that without him, life had no meaning. He said that after they died, they would live with him on another planet. I find this interesting. This was supposed to motivate them to end their lives, right? So I guess they wanted to live with him on another planet. You would think that they would just step back and say, "Hey, you go ahead, and we'll catch up with you later." But, of course, there were other factors at work here. Jones's guards were standing around with crossbows and firearms. Members of Jones's inner circle prepared poison, a mixture of Flavor Aid, cyanide, and Valium. This is where the popular phrase, "drank the Kool-Aid" comes from, even though, of course, they were using the lower-cost Flavor Aid. Jones had the guards start with the children because he knew that once the children died, the parents would lose hope and be more agreeable to end their own lives. As the poisoning went on, Jones continued to talk and pressure the members to take the poison. There is this theory that those who would not comply were injected with the compound. The evidence for this is the presence of injection sites on some of the members. Jones died of a single gunshot wound to the head. The best evidence supports that. It was self-inflicted. By the time it was over, 909 people would be dead, and roughly 304 of those individuals were under the age of 18. There's another theory about Jones that he had been sick for 6 weeks. He had a temperature of 104 for that long, so that may have been a factor in this as well, but that hasn't been confirmed, as far as I know. Moving to the mental health and personality factors now. So, before I get specifically to the behavior Jim Jones, I want to take a quick look at the definition of a cult, because it's pretty clear that he was operating one. There are many definitions out there, but the one I use has 7 items. A cult is authoritarian and manipulative. It uses mind control strategies. It tends to target middle-class citizens. It is based around communal goals. It uses aggressive conversion methods. It attempts to indoctrinate members using a system. And it employs a relatively new belief system in the culture of origin. So all 7 of these seem to line up pretty well with what we see in Jonestown. Now, the classic starting place for cult leaders like Jim Jones would be narcissism. It's easy to align his behavior with 8 of the 9 symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder: grandiosity, fantasies of unlimited power, a belief that one is special, and arrogance are all met by the fact that Jones established Jonestown. So he established his community and named it after himself. Also, he thought he was a deity. So again, all 4 of these are covered with that. An excessive need for admiration is the next symptom. We see this all the time with Jones. A sense of entitlement could be supported by the fact he stole from members, and really, he did whatever he wanted. He was manipulative, and that's another symptom. Probably, this is the characteristic that really stands out the most with Jim Jones. We see Jim Jones had no empathy, no real empathy anyway. He was good at feigning empathy, and we look at the symptom of having envy or believing other people envy you. This is the only one that's not really clear with Jim Jones. I don't know if he would have manifested this, even if he had it, because he was able to obtain everything he wanted, so it makes sense that he would have been envious, but we just don't see it in this context. So again, 8 of 9 symptoms. Now, some cult leaders also appear to be psychopathic. More specifically, they have a number of traits from primary psychopathy. We see this as well here with Jim Jones. It's not surprising that his behavior aligns with antisocial personality because of that disorder's relationship to psychopathy. We see alignment with 5 of the 7 symptoms: repeated criminal behavior. Now, he wasn't held accountable for a lot of the wrongdoing he did as a child, but he did involve himself in a number of crimes. Deceitfulness. We see this was really constant with Jim Jones. Aggression and a disregard for safety. Murder qualifies for both of these. Lack of remorse. There was no evidence of remorse at any point with Jones. and with impulsivity and irresponsibility. Here, we don't really see an alignment. Like many people with primary psychopathy, these symptoms don't really seem to appear, even though otherwise, they qualify for antisocial personality disorder. Now, after looking at narcissism and antisocial personality, we could also consider other personality traits. Paranoia, for example, was a significant part of Jones's personality. He was constantly paranoid about the government, enemies, and conspiracies against him. This paranoia likely contributed to his authoritarian and controlling behavior. Jones also displayed traits associated with histrionic personality disorder, such as being excessively emotional and seeking attention. His ability to manipulate emotions and stage elaborate events to gain attention and control over his followers aligns with this personality trait. The religious aspects of Jones's cult leader persona suggest a possible connection to religious delusions or a messiah complex. Believing himself to be a deity and convincing others of this belief indicates a distorted sense of reality and a grandiose self-image. Additionally, Jones's manipulative tactics, mind control strategies, and ability to create a communal goal in Jonestown align with traits associated with Machiavellianism. Machiavellian individuals are known for their cunning, deceitful, and manipulative behavior to achieve their goals. It's important to note that diagnosing someone with a mental health disorder posthumously is challenging and speculative. The information available about Jim Jones's life and actions suggests a complex interplay of various personality traits and potential mental health issues. In conclusion, Jim Jones exhibited traits associated with narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, paranoid personality traits, histrionic personality disorder, and possibly religious delusions or a messiah complex. His ability to manipulate and control his followers, coupled with a distorted sense of reality, contributed to the tragic events at Jonestown. Thank you very much for your attention. If you liked the video, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If you have ideas for other exciting cases that you would like to see, please comment or send an email to crimesabroadoutlook.com.